Hi there, I'm Karen Marie, and this is Psyched Up for Sunday, September 20th, 2020. So today I've been guided to talk about the transits and what's going on in the heavens right now and how they may be affecting you. I'll be channeling with this, so this is my own interpretation of the planets and the transits. And so here we go. I'm going to start with the sun, which is in Virgo at 28 degrees. So it's been transiting this sign of Virgo for the last month almost. It's got one more degree tomorrow. It'll be 29 degrees, and then it'll pop over the day after tomorrow. It'll be 0 degrees of Libra. So as the sun transits different signs, it brings us the lessons and the teachings that that sign has to offer. The pros and the cons will come up. So, for example, the pros of Virgo are attention to your health, being able to attend to details and put things in order, organizing things. Virgo is a helper. It loves to help. It loves to be of service. So the downsides of Virgo, it's ruled by Mercury, which rules your head, and so you can climb up in your head and be too much in your head trying to figure things out. It's perfectionistic. You can be super harsh on yourself or others, especially because it can be in the mind. It can be more internal, but you can see the flaws in the things around you. So this Virgo energy could have come up in this way. In the last degrees, as the sun is transiting a sign, it's kind of a test. Did you learn the lessons of this sign? Did you bring in something new? Did you do those things that your intuition may have been prompting you to do to change some routines with your health? Did you go into service and offer yourself to be helpful to things? Did you follow your intuition in these things? I feel like everyone is psychic. That's the whole psyched up message, is that we all have intuition. We all have psychic abilities. And when we listen to our intuition and we follow our intuition, it's our connection to our divine higher self, and we'll be in rhythm with our life if we're listening to and acting upon the intuitions we get. And if we ignore that, then sometimes the lessons just turn up louder and louder and louder and louder. Sometimes they reach a breaking point within us or around us if we don't listen to our intuition. You get the green lights, you get the goes, you get things all are in rhythm if you're listening to yourself and you're following your own intuition and your guidance. If you ignore it, if you cancel it out or go against it, then you can meet with the red lights and the brick walls and the conflicts, right? So Virgo in particular, because it rules the head, can be a tendency to override your intuition with your logical, rational thinking. So this last couple of days of Virgo is a test. Did you listen to the messages that Virgo has to offer? Did you make some changes in your health, your daily routine? Did you clean out a drawer and organize something? Did you write down the notes about something? Did you get ideas and collect them? Were you too harsh on yourself or others? Okay, as the sun will be moving into Libra this week in a couple of days, we've changed our focus into relationships. Libra is the scale. Are things fair? Are things just? These are some of the Libra tendencies. One of the downsides is Libra can be maybe this, maybe that, maybe this, maybe that. You can get stuck in an indecision place sometimes when you've got strong planets in Libra, or when the sun is moving through Libra. It can also be a great time to resolve disputes, to find out what's just, what's fair, to listen to yourself. Also, Libra is ruled by Venus, so it's all about relationships and who and what we love. In the early degrees of Libra, like 0 through 9, it's really about our relationship with ourself. Are you listening to yourself? Are you loving to yourself? Are you being harsh and critical? As it moves into later degrees, it really turns the focus more on others. From 10 on up to 29, it's really about our relationships with other people. So that's the theme that we're moving into later this week. All right, so the moon today is in Scorpio. Right now it's at 17 degrees, so it's midway through its transit of Scorpio. Now the moon moves through a sign every 2.5 days or so. So when the moon is in Scorpio, it can often bring up your own intuition and highlight your own intuition, because Scorpio is a very intuitive sign, and the moon is a very intuitive planet. So you put the intuitive planet in an intuitive sign, and it can really heighten your intuition. You can have dreams download that are stronger or more vivid. Also, Scorpio is about setting boundaries. And so you may have felt this prompting to set certain boundaries with yourself or others as the moon is going through Scorpio. Also, Scorpio has that tail on it. It don't play. You know, if you don't treat a Scorpio the right way, they'll come back and sting you. And so, you know, if someone has caused you upset or harm, watch yourself. It also can be a tendency where you can lash out when the moon is going through Scorpio. We have Mercury at 22 degrees of Libra. So it's already been going through Libra for a while. So again, back to the themes of Mercury ruling the head. Are things fair? What? So a lot of action up in our heads, and it's in the later degrees of Libra. So this is right now about thinking about our relationships and our connections to others and the world around us too. Like, is that fair? Is that right? Can be some of the energies that can come up in these later degrees of Mercury in Libra. It is also exactly square Pluto today at 22 degrees of Capricorn, and Pluto is retrograde right now. So a square, anytime planets square off, it can bring out a conflict. It's kind of like two cars coming to the road at the same time, and it can be a vying for who goes next. And so this square between Mercury, which rules our head, our communication, how we think, how we process information. It's also technology and transportation and computers. It is square Pluto. Pluto is death and transformation. It's empowerment, but it's protesting. And so there can be this square off and more tendency to want to verbalize, oh, that doesn't work for me. It can also be endings. Pluto can literally be death. And so the death of things related to how we communicate, the people we communicate with, endings when it comes to that kind of stuff. It could be the end of your phone or the end of your car too, because of the Mercury representing transportation and communication as well. It's travel as well. So you may also have had travel plans that got the kibosh with the square off with Pluto. Now, on the other side of the skies, we have got Mars, which today is at 27 degrees of Aries. So it is now retrograde. It went up to 28 degrees. It will be going retrograde throughout the next couple months until November 13th. And then it goes back direct again. And it'll go back to Aries at 15 degrees is where it turns around. So if you've got any planets that are in these later degrees, from mid to late degrees of Aries, you're going to be particularly affected by this Mars transit. So Mars represents our ego. It's also what we put energy into, our motion, what motivates us, what makes us want to move towards something. And when Mars goes retrograde, it kind of takes our ego offline a bit. It makes us and makes it harder to move through space. It is also squaring these outer planets that are in Capricorn right now. So I've already talked about Pluto being at 22 degrees of Capricorn. Saturn today is at 25 degrees of Capricorn, and Jupiter is at 17 degrees. Jupiter just went direct last week. They were all retrograde. Saturn is retrograde now, but it will go direct at the very end of September. And then Pluto goes direct first week or two in October. I don't remember the exact date right now. So these outer planets have been in a stellium, meaning 3 planets that are all in a close place in the sky together, since January. So all year long, they've been teaching some lessons, right? So Jupiter expands things. It represents our knowledge, what we believe in, who we believe in. Pluto, like I said, is death and transformation. Saturn is our rules, our laws. In Capricorn, this is an earth sign, so it's solid. It's that more leaders, more presidents have been Capricorn than any other sign. It's a natural leader sign. So Saturn in Capricorn, for example, representing our government, our rules, that which rules us, our rules in Capricorn. It's like the good old boys network that has been ruling our globe for centuries is one of the things that Saturn in Capricorn is representing. It had gone up into Aquarius at the beginning of this year. In fact, when Saturn was at the beginning of Aquarius is when the Congress passed the legislation that everyone gets paid, right? So it's gone back, and Aquarius is humanity, so it's things that affecting everyone. As it's gone back into Capricorn retrograde, it's gone back into some of these old rules and old laws, and people are arguing and fighting. So we've got Mercury squaring off with Pluto on one side, and we've got Mars, the god of war, squaring off with Pluto on the other side. And Mars is not alone. It's got company. We've got Eris, which is like the goddess of war. It's an asteroid that represents a fiery nature. It can be awakening and empowering in a positive way. It can be destructive and warring on another level. So we've got Mars, which is the god of war, with Eris in the skies, and also Black Lilith, which represents our fears, is at 26 degrees of Aries right now. So we've got these three in a stellium right now: Mars, Eris, and Black Lilith. So Black Lilith represents the things we're afraid of. And so the very things that we may be afraid of, Mars has already made one pass over these planets. Now it's going backwards. It'll cross over Black Lilith this week. And so what that means is our ego will be going back over some areas where we are holding fears. And so it's a testing time. It's a way to respond to our fears in a different way. Take a different course of action. Rethink how our ego usually does things and rewind and do it differently. This is an opportunity that can be with these planets. They're squaring off with these outer planets that are in a stellium together. So I've said this many times, said it last week and on other videos. Saturn and Pluto next to each other. So Saturn representing our rules, our laws, our constitution, our governments, and not just ours, all over the globe, and also personally, what is ruling your life? What are your rules? What have you held yourself to the stone about for your whole lifetime? Is right next to Pluto, death and transformation, which may have been demoted in astronomical circles as a planet, but it will still completely transform whatever it gets close to or is in relationship with, right? So it's been transforming our laws, our rules, how we do things. This old patriarchal system is being brought down. It's being transformed to be replaced with the age of Aquarius, where everyone's rights matter. Everyone contributes. We're a part of a greater whole. That's where the outer planets are moving. Jupiter and Saturn will move into Aquarius at the end of this year into next year. And so we're going to have some sort of liftoff that we've been feeling of this stuckness. Pluto, however, will be staying at the last degrees of Capricorn. It goes into Aquarius 2024. So we've got like 4 more years where Pluto is still transforming things in this late degrees of Capricorn. It just won't be as intensive as it has been this year. And we're still going to be having some intensity going into next year. But added to this intensity of these planets that are slow-moving outer planets is these inner, more personal planets, which move more quickly, that are getting into it's like the gang fight here. Mercury on one side and Mars on the other is both aspecting Pluto and Saturn right now. And so this shifting up of the paradigm, what we think about it, Mercury, how we take action in our own personal lives, these are also coming to ahead. So it's causing us to rethink how we've thought about things. It's causing us to take different actions as well. So, or at least that's how I interpret that. What else do we have? We've got Venus, which is at 16 degrees of Leo right now. So Venus is the planet of love. It is what we love, who we love, what we want to put our energies into, what we desire, what brings up those wonderful feelings of delight as we think about them. It's also the arts. And so right next to Venus right now in the skies is Vesta. Vesta today is at 17 degrees. So Venus will cross over Vesta. Like she stays at 16 for a couple of days. Like this week they do this little dance. Then they're on the same degree and then Venus will cross over Vesta. So Vesta, to me, my interpretation of Vesta was the goddess that guarded the sacred flame in Rome. She was a virgin. So I see Vesta showing up in the people's charts personally and for all of us in ways where we've sacrificed ourselves in past lives and then tend to sacrifice ourselves in this lifetime. It's right there, kissing Venus right now. So it'd be highlighting how we have sacrificed ourselves in our relationships or sacrificed ourselves for who we love or what we love, or the lack of sacrifice on the other side of it too. So I think that these issues will be coming to a head this week. They're already 1 degree apart, so they're already conjunct. So you may already be feeling this, oh my God, I just give and give and give, and I don't get anything back. I'm tired of this theme. I'm tired of this karma. So Venus and Vesta are part of a yod this week. So a yod is an isosceles triangle, basically, with a quincunx on one side and a quincunx on another, and then there's a sextile at the bottom. So it can also be called the finger of God. It's an area of pointing. So we've got the bottom of this triangle is Jupiter, which is at 17 degrees Capricorn, and Neptune, which is at 19 degrees Pisces. So with Venus at 16 degrees, it'll kind of start up in the next day or so, and when it is in a quincunx exactly with Jupiter, and over the course of several days, this finger of God is pointing to this energy of the Vesta and the Venus, and it's causing us to really rethink our relationships. In fact, relationships can come to a head this week. You can decide, oh yes, I'm going to go this direction. I'm going to do this. I'm going to follow my heart in this way. Or you can see where you've been following your heart and following yourself or pointing to a certain relationship and you're like, this is not working for me. One of the keys is to look at what is opposite of the pointing finger in the middle of this base here between Neptune, which represents our spirituality, our psychic sense. It's also, that's the positive side of Neptune. On the downside of Neptune is dreamy thinking, delusion, illusions that are not real. It can also be addictive tendencies, being an addictive nature. And Jupiter expands things. It's also our knowledge. So we may be making a shift here with these energies. Between the Neptune and the Jupiter is the mid degrees of Aquarius. So if you have any planets in the middle degrees of Aquarius, you may feel this really strongly because this is where there's a key to where the finger of God is pointing. So, and Aquarius, again, it's an air sign. It can be about separation and where we draw a line and move away from something. It can also, like I said before, represent humanity and where we need to come together. So I feel like these issues of where we need to come together and where we need to step back are really reaching ahead this week. And I believe that if you listen to your intuition, you'll get some great clarity around whether or not you're headed in the right direction in your relationships and in terms of following your passions. So for example, I have my Saturn in the middle of these degrees. So this yod is pointing to Leo, which is also about relationships and love and our heart as well, because Leo can represent our heart. And then Aquarius, my Saturn is about how I structure myself, my rules, how I form, how I do my boundaries. And so to me, that would be structuring time, maybe around how I follow what I love. For example, I love to do music. And so it may be structuring my time better between how I practice my instruments or how much time I put into the things that I love. My spiritual practice. I may have insights around spiritual practices this week. I might have insights around knowledge. I might get some new knowledge. I might have something new click in and want to pull that into my daily routine because my Saturn's in the middle there. That's just an example of how you can translate that. Okay, so the North and South node are jumping out at me right now. We've got the North node at 24 degrees of Gemini, and the South node is at 24 degrees of Sag. They're always opposite each other. So this is a collective energy. So the collective on the planet has their focus, or what they're learning, or what things are pointing to for everyone is this Gemini energy. Actually, the nodes go backwards. They're always retrograde. So they will go back to 23 degrees by the end of the week. So they are in conjunct with these outer planets. So there's an energy here of listening to your mind, your brain. Gemini rules the head. It's ruled by Mercury, like Virgo is. And so Gemini is the twins. Gemini can be Jekyll and Hyde at the negative end of the scale. It can be inventiveness on the positive end of the scale. Gemini rules the media, and it rules our communication. So for all of us, we're having to rethink how we communicate with the North Node moving through Gemini. And it takes about 1.5 years for the nodes to move through a sign. The South Node is our collective karma and what that's showing up. And in Sag, it's looking at our collective beliefs. What do we collectively believe to be true? What do we buy into? And so those things may be shifting as the South Node, or will be, not maybe, will be shifting. What we believe in and who we believe in will be shifting during this next 1.5 years. And that's everybody. What else I haven't discussed yet? Uranus is at 10 degrees of Taurus. Taurus rules the earth. It's the sign of art and creativity. Taurus has been shaking things up on this planet. It literally is shaking the earth. It's literally bringing up more earth disasters, as you know, with fires and extra hurricanes and flooding and all that. A lot of that can be attributed with Uranus there shaking things up in Taurus. It only shakes things up to bring things better in. So I will say that is a higher octave. And this pointing to Venus, I feel like that's the number one thing, and that's really standing out. And then the movement of the sun into Libra for this week. So really checking in with yourself. And it's the time, if you haven't done a treasure map, if you haven't done a vision board, to ask yourself, what do I want? What do I love? What is important to me? This would be a great week to do that, to get your focus. Now, Mercury goes into squares with all these outer planets this week. So it's already squaring off with, what did I say? Mercury is at 22. So it's squaring off with Pluto. It's already squared off with Jupiter. And now it's going to square off with Saturn too. And so again, there can be a discussion about what the rules are. It can be arguments around what the rules are or what they should be, what's right, what's wrong, because Mercury's in Libra. So that's kind of the setup as I see it in the planets right now, and how you can harness the energies. We with Mars retrograde, we may feel offline. With Neptune and Pisces, we can be fuzzy thinking or up in our heads too much with all this Mercury ruled energy going on too, with the North Node in Gemini and the Sun in Virgo. Can be a whole sense of trying to figure things out of the box. Again, the answers are in our intuition. I'd really recommend plugging into spiritual practices, anything that quiets your mind, getting out in nature, meditating, chanting, praying, whatever puts you in a good space, picking up babies, picking flowers, really up the self-care this week. And the inner work is what we have control over. We can't control what's going down in Congress or what's going on in the presidential race or what's going on the other side of the globe. We can control how we respond to it. And when you plug into your higher self, to your intuition, to your spiritual nature, you can have the lessons and the answers and the direction be shown to you. If you go off without a plugging into your intuition or spirituality, if you let your brain, your mind rule, you can run yourself right into a box or an argument, as seems to be the case this week. It would be a really easy week to get into arguments and fights with the Mars square, the Pluto stuff, and retro, and hanging out there with Black Lilith, going over our fears, what we're most afraid of. But it can be an opportunity to shift how we usually react to things. Since the Mars represents our ego and retrograde is kind of our ego offline, we can go, okay, well, I would usually blurt out a blah, 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 but I'm going to hold off a minute and seek guidance about what to do about this situation. I recommend moving a little bit more slowly. Again, we're going to have this Libra energy not only in Mercury and communication, but in the Sun in a couple days. So it'll lend to us being able to, okay, slow down, take it easy. Like, okay, easy does it. Let me figure this out. Libra also is an air sign, so it can put us just like kind of leave in our body. Same thing with the North Node in Gemini being an air sign. We can just lose our minds and leave it. So grounding practices, getting out and putting your feet on the earth in some way or in water, these are great ways to ground yourself as well. So I'm going to leave it at that.